But now it's time for that speed test of common sense. It's when we get Australia's leading political minds, we ask them to spend 1 minute covering a topic, so the common sense is going to come out thick and fast. Tonight, let's get into it with Sky News contributor Daisy Cousens. Daisy, wonderful to have you on Bernardi again. Can I kick it off with Peter Dutton? He's not even in charge of the Liberal Party yet, and the slurs have already begun. Have a listen to Tanya Plibersek.
Well, I think there'll be a lot of children who've watched a lot of Harry Potter films who'll be very frightened of what they're seeing on TV at night, that's for sure.
What, are you saying he looks strange? He looks odd?
I'm saying he looks a bit like Voldemort, and we'll see whether he can do what he promised he'd do when he was last running for leader, which is smile more.
Well, the PM says that Tanya Plibersek's apologised. Peter Dutton took it all in his stride. Have a look at this.
It's water off a duck's back. It's you read all of that sort of stuff online, as you say, in sort of the sewer of Twitter.
Okay, Daisy, I thought Albo was spot on saying this was inappropriate. It's for too long. It's been a one-way street. Women can call men, white men, straight men, whatever, they can call them all the names they like. And of course, a bloke, if he says, I don't like your haircut, is monstered through the media. Is it time to get rid of the name calling and focus all about policy?
Look, I really think it is. I mean, I hate to sound like a goody two-shoes. I've certainly been known to get in the online biffo here and there, Cory, but honestly, after campaigns that really focused on basically demonising the other guy, and kind of refreshing way that this issue was dealt with. I mean, Tanya Plibersek, that's something you don't really expect from her very much. You expect that kind of lack of self-awareness from someone like Lidia Thorpe. Maybe she just got caught up in the moment, was excited and stuff came out of her mouth that maybe she wouldn't ordinarily have said. But to give her a due, she apologised straight away to Peter Dutton, did the mea culpa, didn't double down or do a chest beating. He very graciously accepted her apology. He could have made a political point out of that if he'd want, gone on about the Labor Party's lack of civility, but he didn't, as he said, water off a duck's back. And on top of that, Anthony Albanese didn't try to defend Tanya Plibersek or excuse her. He said, no, she did the wrong thing. It's not acceptable. And I think we should have better manners in politics. I mean, it's like night and day that the last 6 weeks does not happen.
Daisy, I've got to ding you out. I know I'll be called a bully for dinging you out, but we've got the timer there. It's all that. But Daisy, you make an excellent point. It was handled beautifully, I think, by both sides of politics. I was impressed with the Prime Minister. I was impressed with Peter Dutton, how he just, sloughed it off, and we're all moving on. Hopefully we'll have a more respectful body politic coming forward. Okay, the Australian Energy Regulator has approved electricity price rise of up to 18% from July. That's 13% ahead of inflation. Here's what incoming Energy Minister Chris Bowen said today.
9 years of policy chaos means we don't have enough renewable energy in the system. 9 years of policy chaos means we don't have enough transmission in the system. 9 years of policy chaos means that the Australian energy system is not ready for the changes that are being brought about by these international circumstances.
Daisy, he forgot to add hundreds of billions of dollars of subsidies for renewable power that has made our grid unreliable and inefficient, and prices are going up because we're getting this free renewable power, of course. This is going to be a problem for Labor, isn't it?
I think it really will be a problem for Labor. I mean, forget all this sort of teal seat stuff about, lofty sort of climate change things. People's power bill, I mean, that's one of the main expenses they have every month. And this is going to be a problem for Labor because after them blaming now the other guys for 9 years of alleged policy chaos, I'm sorry, they've now set the precedent that it's all the government's fault if power prices go up and up and up. And as you said, they've left out a lot of information there about subsidies, etc. And what I loved was Chris Bowen saying, oh, we're going to invest in renewable energy. And I'm thinking to myself, so you're basically saying we're going to throw money at it and we promise that at some point in the future, won't be straight away, but maybe at some point your power bills will be a bit cheaper because we're investing this nondescript money in renewable energy, and we hope that will work. That was literally what I took from all of that. I don't know what they're going to do here, Cory, but this is going to be a problem for them. It will make them unpopular.
It's crazy. The more free energy we get, the more expensive it becomes for all of us. OK, what about this? Do you remember this claim from the election by the now Prime Minister?
Does that mean you would support a wage hike of at least 5.1% just to keep up with inflation?
Absolutely.
Well, apparently it's no more, Daisy. Have a look at what he told the ABC radio today.
The submission will be consistent with what I said during the election campaign, that people who are on the minimum wage can't afford to go backwards, can't afford a real wage cut.
Will you specify a quantum of the increase that the government would like? 5.1 is the current inflation rate.
There won't be a number in the submission.
Now, Daisy, people are saying that he's running away from his promises because he's not putting the inflation rate in, asking for it. I'm choosing to look at it, that he's saying, well, maybe they want to put it up by more than the inflation rate now. Both economically bad policy, but I can understand why he doesn't want people to go backwards. What's your view?
That's not a bad point. In fact, that's a very good point that you make, Cory, about him not putting a number on it, because my first instinct was that he was doing a sort of each way elbow thing and, you know, not maybe backing off, not daring to put a number. But if he doesn't put a number on it, it's political genius, because the raise could be even higher than the inflationary rate and then he would look great. But as you say, it's not great policy either way. I kind of sit on the fence when it comes to the minimum wage. It's like I do with penalty rates. I can see both sides of it. On the one hand, you've got workers who, with inflation, of course, their lives would be made much easier by a wage hike that is in line with the inflation rate, of course. But on the other hand, if you're a small business or a medium-sized business and you're trying to employ people in, you know, at difficult times, suddenly you have to give this, you know, reasonable wage hike to any workers you might be employing on the minimum wage. Well, that's going to make it very hard for you to run your business. You might have to fire people or shut up shop. So it's very difficult either way, but it's dangerous policy for sure.
Yeah, it is dangerous policy, but I was one of the few during the election campaign that thought it was actually a political winner. I mean, how can you have one party arguing your wages are not going to keep up with the cost of living, and even though that's the biggest issue out there, and the other party is saying, yeah, we want your wages to keep up with the cost of living? I thought it was a no-brainer. Economically, very difficult. Don't email me about that. But anyway, they won, so maybe the proof is in the pudding. And the victor, they always get the spoils. That's the phrase, isn't it? And see, the Prime Minister's now in a position to decide who gets cushy jobs around the place. And the latest rumour is that the non-victor, the person who fails at almost everything, Christina Keneally, is up for an ambassador job. Now, she also promised to stay in Fowler regardless of the election result, remember, Daisy? And then, of course, this happened.
The once wannabe member for Fowler, back home on Pittwater's, Scotland Island.
Welcome back to the Northern Beaches, Miss Keneally.
Christina Keneally, shadowed by her off-duty cop son Daniel, lost what was regarded as Labor's unlosable seat.
You're back in Mackellar so soon after your loss. Does that prove that you're a parachute candidate?
Daisy, two questions here. Did she have to call in the removalists from Fowler? Was there any furniture in the rented joint at all? And can you be an ambassador from Scotland Island in Sydney?
Oh, wow. What an extraordinary sequence of events. I don't know if she'd had any time to move her stuff in or out, but I'm telling you, probably after that defeat, she's probably pretty happy to be back on home turf in Scotland Island. And look, as for her getting an ambassador position, would it actually surprise you if Anthony Albanese gave her some sort of cushy job? I mean, she's a career politician, and for some reason, even though I don't really think she has a lot of appeal, and certainly the people of Fowler called her out. It was so insulting that she was parachuted in and expected to win that seat at the expense of a quality Labor candidate that had already been picked and who was representative of the community. But for some reason, they keep wanting to put her back into politics, whether it's a by-election or maybe an ambassador position. I don't know why they like her so much, but like it would not surprise me at all. But certainly, on the subject of, say, Daly, who won Fowler, I think she's proof that the Liberal Party could certainly take seats like that. If Daly, who's a great candidate, former Liberal, independent, can do it, then those seats out there are right for the picking.
Yeah, right, Daisy. I'm bringing a bell, right? That's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to have a bell on my desk to bell people out. But you're right about Daly. Absolutely agree with it. Now, Matt Canavan had a very interesting article in the Courier Mail today saying the focus on the Teals is disproportionate. He says, and I quote, Teal-supported candidates across the country received just 3.4% of the vote. It makes them the 7th biggest party. Now, compare that, the attention they got with that of One Nation. We've got 5% of the vote. The United Australia Party, 4% of the vote. Or the Marijuana Party, for that matter, as we discussed before. Daisy, have the Teals been overrated, or have they just slaughtered some safe Liberal seats, then that's what's got them all the attention?
I think they've been completely overrated. Certainly, yeah, they won those seats, but it wasn't like millions and millions of people voted for them. They just got the votes in the right places. I did a bit of a post-mortem of the numbers a couple of days ago, and it turns out, at least, a couple of days ago, the swing towards the Liberal Democrats, the UAP and One Nation combined was greater than the swing towards the Greens and the Independents. And it seemed to me, when I looked at where they got the votes, etc., on first preferences, it seems the Liberal Party probably lost more votes to the right-wing minor parties than they did to the Teals. Yet there's all this, fuss about the Teals because they're trendy and they won the votes in the right spots. But people are dismissing those right-wing minor parties despite of this. But they had some exponential growth. I mean, the Liberal Democrats, for instance, in the 2019 election, they had about 34,000 first preference votes. Now they have over 200,000 votes since 2019. That's a massive growth, and they got the votes most particularly in the western suburbs of Sydney and other suburbs of big cities.
You're absolutely right again, Daisy Cousens. We're going to have to get you back so we can cover these topics in a more fulsome manner one day, but we're out of time right now. So thanks for joining me on Bernardi, Daisy.